What should you know if you are contemplating taking psilocybin magic mushrooms? I haven't premeditated anything I'm about to say, but if we frame the video as if someone asked it to me on a whim, well, obviously the fucking shit about, I'm not saying you should take mushrooms, terms of service, whatever, or psychedelics. Mainly magic mushrooms is probably the best introduction, because acid is a bit, it depends if you notice if it's, a mushroom's a mushroom in it, and the other stuff is like a bit more weird. So a mushroom is quite easy, and they're quite organic, and there's a well-known quote amongst Terence McKenna and the psychedelic community. There's psychedelic mushrooms are very welcoming to beginners, but unforgiving with veterans. So there are warnings. Don't instill yourself with fear, but if you take a large dose, it depends how many trips you've had. The first few trips are often commonly known to be very welcoming and warm and good. So I had the first 2 times I'd done mushrooms, I took a 3-5 on the first time, and so I took so the first time I took mushrooms, it was actually, I took them and I was way up there actually with one of my best mates and some other guy, and we were smoking. I was still smoking tobacco at that point, I think, so perhaps it was the shrooms that made me cut it out. But yeah, it was the first time. God, that must have been a long time ago. And I went somewhere else, and then I went, oh fuck this, I want to go get headphones. I went to my house to get them, and then I was like, nah, fuck this. I sat in the garden with my shirt off in the sun, and I was looking at the fence, and then I'm not joking, yeah, I know it sounds like stereotypical, because I've heard myself say it loads, but I'm not joking, bro. I was looking at the fence, and it was a large, like, brown fence in front of me, just in my garden. You couldn't see through it. It was just like 6 foot or 8 foot panel, whatever. And it literally, eventually, of just sitting in the sun, like coming up on these shrooms, it literally like mounted right in front of me. Not that I could see behind it, but like the fence was all like the main thing of my vision, the main kind of object, and it literally just like, it's like it was wax. And I was just like, oh my god, and everything's mounting, bruv, and there's so many different aspects to it. I go upstairs, I look in the mirror, and everything is like perfect symmetry in my face. And that's the one thing that that I've noticed, is visuals kind of peter out over time, so they become less relevant when you have a lot of trips. So mushrooms, I've probably had over 100 trips over many years, probably more often than not combined with cannabis. A lot in silent darkness, and that's a good thing I should talk on, actually. I'll talk about that. Yeah, let's just let one sec. But yeah, like someone asked me not long ago, they were like, what can you see? And I said, it's not really what you see. I said it like, it feels kind of like, and I was gonna I said spiritual, and then he just was like, people don't want to hear about it. They think that you're like religious. I don't know. He just called me lost. I just said, I guess, but I don't know, bro. He's just hating. They ain't seen what I've seen. That's why I can walk around with I walk around with this Mr. Traumatic merch that says I'm a multi-dimensional entity. It's just such a weird looking jumper. But if anyone was ever to like be like, what the fuck is up? It'd just be like, you haven't seen what I've seen, bro, if you don't get it. Anyway. So yeah, the visual, there's still many visuals, and if in silent darkness there's often like actual visions, and they have the same kind of nature as a dream. Very strange. So anyway, but yeah, in the beginning, like there's definitely a lot of visuals, like and on LSD, like I've had the sky covered in fucking the flower of life. There's these very particular geometric patterns, and I don't know, they seem to be like pure wisdom. They kind of look like the crop circles, and they're like all to do with sacred geometry is what they're called, and like maths and numbers and things, and like it's basically like the blueprint to the universe supposedly. And there is a lot of these intricate geometric patterns, and you see it often in nature. So the bottom of a pine cone actually has that a kind of flower fractal. Nature is fractals everywhere, but you can find there's like this certain plants that have very clear geometric intricate patterns, and you see that often on mushrooms and that, but over time you get less like engulfed into them. Sometimes, I mean, fuck me, like 80 I mean, it still looks amazing, don't get me wrong, like it still blows your mind every time, but you're no longer, you've seen it, like, and you see it when you're sober if you do it enough. It's kind of like HPPD, but I don't understand how that happens to people in a negative way, because I mean, everything's still completely functional. It just, I don't know, everything, it looks the same, but it can look different, like often nature and trees, but I like it. I think it's better, because what you see on psychedelics looks real from some angles. It's still like perception, and you see things in new ways, and you never see it as the same after again. And I don't know what to say about that, because the realm, you know, the shrooms are organic, they're used as medicine, and like that, everything else about them is fucking, I would say fantastic, but I don't really use that word. It sounds a bit weird to say that. So anyway, this is very important. Should you take them in here, whether the sun is out or it's raining or what's the deal, or should you take them in silent darkness? Oh, should you take them in silent darkness at like 3 a.m. in your bedroom alone, or should you take them outside? You can either take them at night after the day, before, like in the evening you dose it when the sun's going down and you're quietly in your living room, and you can have a lamp on if you wish, but silent darkness supposedly. And I would recommend, because it's not wise to lay down as soon as you've eaten, I've heard, so I intuitively would say don't literally lay down after you eat a huge dose. Not telling you to eat a dose, but if you do, and a heroic dose, really for me, like a 3.5 grams of Liberty Cap strain at least, for me, it doesn't really do it anymore. It does, it certainly does, but it doesn't snap. If I go to about 7 grams, which is pretty kind of rare for me now, to be fair, 7 grams is a lot. So what I was going to say about the visuals actually is how I say they peter out, they don't matter anymore. Don't get me wrong, one time I was chilling and I was thinking about whatever, and then a fucking like a grid of like an organic like system emerged. It was like basically a golden like square, and it had loads of different dots, you know, like Connect 4, how it's like, imagine just a grid of 10 dots like that, and each of the dots, like half of them were growing in and half were growing out, like a wall of them, and they were like squadges of like, they looked like honey or like hobs on the top of a cooker, like electric hobs, you know how it comes on like bright and then goes out. It was like a grit, and it the more I looked at it, the more like I understood it in a way, and it felt like very good to watch, because I thought it might have been like the Terence McKenna visual language, because I'd never met what they call machine elves or entities, which, yeah, you can get them as well, like a construct of an other, or supposedly there's basically entities in that realm, supposedly, but that's more DMT. But anyway, should you take them in the silent darkness or out in the nature? Oh yeah, so actually, so yeah, you can take them in the evening in silent darkness. That's what I was gonna say. Or what I would probably say, because right, I used to take them much more out and about at the beginning, and then for a while, before I got kicked out of my fucking crib and everything changed quite drastically on my channel, and I've changed a lot. I was watching some of my old stuff. I'm very different now. So then at that period, I started doing them a lot in silent darkness, as Terence McKenna recommended, and those are really where it's at. They will, like, if you want to meet your mind, do it in silent darkness. That's where the real shadow work happens. But not necessarily that's the best thing to do, because it's often, because that's how Terence does it. He says he normally takes it about 7 p.m. I think he said, in silent darkness for the moment. He takes it and he just sits there, or you basically take it and you sit there and you wait and you discipline yourself not to get up. And this is important because, to be fair, there's something to be said about, like, if you take a big dose outside, you have to be wary because it's intense. I made a video, I kind of dragged on, to be fair, but basically, like, a good friend of mine who was also into the kind of spiritual stuff, he was going through some shit anyway, but he took some shrooms and he actually took his life on the mushrooms. And that's just an example of how powerful they are. I've had trips. Check out, if you search OXSN bad trip on Rumble or YouTube, you'll find it's got quite a cool thumbnail. It says suicide terror trip. It's a very, like, entertaining edited video. I poured hours into that. It talks very in depth of a trip that I had. So I told you earlier I took 3 mushroom trips when I said that mushrooms are good with beginners but unforgiving with veterans. The 3rd trip I took, after the 2 good trips where my fence melted, and then I had another one of a similar nature when I was outside in the sun in the daytime, I took one when it was at night. I was listening to Lex Benjamin, if you know him. He talks about psychedelics. He's talking about the infinite perspective video on mushrooms at the time. But yeah, that's the video I'm referring to. So if you want to know more about that trip. But anyway, I got locked into hell basically, and I had, like, I decided that I must kill myself, and it was, like, literally insane. And that happened on 2 separate occasions around the same period. And it just happens to you. Like, I wouldn't put it on. You literally lose, like, awareness, bruv. You're literally just, like, fucking rolling back and forth, just, like, I was, like, singing songs and rapping music and things, like, and I didn't even know who was in front of me. Like, on one of the trips, I started to shout for my mum. I literally just started to go, "Mum." Like, I didn't know if anyone was in the house. I couldn't understand the idea of the sun that had gone down, or the idea of my mum coming home from work. I was like, what the fuck is going on, bruv? And it was literally, yeah, I remember messaging my sister, because they might have, I didn't know if they were going to come around or not, and I messaged them saying I was literally dead. And I remember that feeling. So I literally had visions, and I, like, melted into the earth and became, like, the leaves and the roots and stuff. But, like, it's not like I put it on. Like, it literally, I was just alone in my room, bruv, and I literally just disintegrated into fucking some, like, next dimension, and it was, like, dark. And it happens to loads of people. Like, I know a mate who said he happened to him, everything went green and, like, spiraled inwards, and his dad come in and he, like, started to cry. Fuck knows, bruv, it's deep. So that's what I mean, that's what I was going to say, is the more you do them, that don't happen anymore. You get to a point where I can comfortably take, like, I've never taken, like, 15 grams of shrooms, because the dose, just eating it, is shit. But if I had it in capsules, or, like, fuck me, I'd do that. And I'd be fine. That's not that I would necessarily do that now. I just mean, I wouldn't lose my composure, but you do in the earlier goes, because it's so unknown territory. Like, Terence McKenna has a quote where he's like, something along the lines of like they kind of like they introduce you and they're wise, they're nice and welcoming, and then they trick you and you take a massive dose and then you get trapped in the meat locker. Oh my god, what was that? Oh, my throat is like really dry. So yeah, anyway, so Silent Darkness is fucking deep. But anyway, what I fell in love with recently, and the reason why Silent Darkness I think may not be the pinnacle, I think a balance of each. I want to be tripping in nature, somebody give me that fungi quick, wow, see you later, I'm going, my crown chakra's glowing. I'm at one with nature, it's weird, I'm growing in seeds I'm sowing, your intuition's all knowing, teach him, somebody show him. So, tripping in nature, yeah, basically, here's the thing. Wake up in the morning, and I've done this twice, somewhat recently. Wake up in the morning, take basically about 6 grams of Liberty Cap strain mushrooms, in like breakfast straight away with organic apple. It's quite a task to eat this. And then I get my good quality marijuana, the healthiest I can manage with good quality Rizzlers, etc. So I don't have any tobacco. And I set out in the sun on a really good weather into like basically a nature reserve near where I live, with a bag with water. I've said this before for years. You set out into nature, and but it can be very, very. You got to be careful. Terence says he doesn't like going out because grizzly bears will appear, UFOs will come, pirates and motorcycle gangs. And that is true. One time I was sat on a bench, and this was on one of these trips that I was just on about. These 2 trips where I sat on a bench, like public near a park, and I don't know what I was doing. I just sat there, and some guy come by on a bicycle, and he was rapping, but it was just pure gibberish. Like, I don't know. I could do it if I was on psychedelics because I don't have all these boundaries. But I can't do what's it called? Like, I don't know. Terence McKenna. It's like this light speak shit. But he was just rapping complete nonsense out loud, and he was so confident, and it was just so strange. I'm not hating. It was just weird because when you're tripping and that just goes past, it's like, what the fuck? And stuff like that happens more on shrooms. Like, it's weird, man. And half of it is a fucking hallucination. Like, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I think honestly it feels quite healthy. I'm more present. When I do it in Silent Darkness, I feel like sometimes I might be like half asleep in a weird way, but you can't fall asleep on shrooms, and you're still awake the whole time, but it's way like deeper in Silent Darkness because you go in and out of like trances, and you literally just lose your mind a lot more if you take a big dose in Silent Darkness, which I've done many of, and fuck me, that is really where it's at. But at the same time, they're hard to put in the same category, because setting out in nature, coming up on a big shroom dose, and you've got a lovely joint, and you're sat there and you listen to some conscious music, and or like maybe you're, because it comes with insights. And I was walking around just being a young, relatively healthy young lad with a massive joint and on shrooms, walking around in the woods. But like the thing is the sense perception, and if you look at the brain scans, is so interconnected, and like everything is turned on like 100%. So you perceive like everything that you weren't perceiving, because we ignore more than we take in like the normal sober state. But you can, like, through meditation, breathwork, or psychedelics, you kind of like change the fucking way that your brain is working. Even in a scientific paradigm, if you just say you're just putting a drug in your brain and that's what's making you see all this stuff, I'm like, yeah, alright, but you're still perceiving energy in some sense, and it is going to be in there. So maybe that's where the sacred geometry comes from, is perhaps it's like, if you're fucking with the hardware, then yeah, like it's like some people say, like, oh, it's just a dying brain. That's the explanation of the near-death experience. Like I met that guy actually. He was like some super scientific intellectual. When I was a bin man, he was the fucking driving the lorry and I was the loader, and we were debating. I was fucking spiritual guy and he was just fucking scientific fundamentalist rationalist. And yeah, he just said everything's like just got some like explanation. Like the reason why you're doing all this is because you're putting a drug in your brain. It's like, yeah, alright, but have you actually been in there? And what does that even mean? Like, it's not just guilty as charged because it causes hallucinations. Like, yeah, the thing is, you don't even have to believe in it as well. You haven't got to turn it into a fucking ideology or nothing. But when you watch art, like a music video, or listen to music, for example, on psychedelics, it's literally, it's like, if you listen to your favourite music on psychedelics, then you will rate psychedelics. You don't have to turn into a fucking, you don't have to turn it into like a political fucking personality or ideology or nothing necessarily. Not people do that. I've been somewhat guilty of it in the past, but time is the teacher. And who's to say that they're not valid to do so? Which if I didn't, I wouldn't have met of many people who are like-minded through my social media, etc., which was kind of the plan. What the fuck am I talking about? I don't know. I want to overhaul my channel. But yeah, taking mushrooms in nature is good, and it feels healthy, and I feel more awake and alive. And in silent darkness, it's often very confusing and scary. But I think that's where the real work is. But doing it in nature, a high dose in nature, is so beautiful. And if you have weed and everything, you feel very lucky. You can do breath work outside, and obviously nature's good for you. You can be more awake compared to if you're literally laying horizontally. I think I heard, is it Andrew Huberman? You know, Huberman Lab podcast. He fucking said, I think, that there's actually like a physiological higher focus if you're sat up compared to if you're led down, and that's what I'm talking about. I think there's something to be said about posture. Shallow breathing is probably more common if you're laying down, and that has something to do with bad trips as well. Terence McKenna stated, you can find out if you search Terence McKenna crazy story on YouTube. I'll link it in the description. Or watch my fucking trip that I said, the bad trip one. Do it. It's in my fucking Instagram bio, bruv. But yeah, I'm gonna know. Just be careful. Do research. Don't take a huge dose outside, especially for your first time. If you do, if you take it, discipline yourself to just shut the fuck up and stay still. You can just don't freak out. It's like that's like the stupidest thing, and I've done it, and other people are guilty. Like, just don't take it and then get uncomfortable and then get up and start causing a panic and being loud, because that is just such a noob move, bruv. And you, like, I know when it's going to happen to people. Like this one guy, he took him once and he was so confident, and I took him with him in a group of other lads with Key Parks. He's on YouTube as well, and that's one of the people, like I said earlier, I met through my YouTube, being a spiritual personality, connecting to others like me. And I met him, and this lad, he was so confident. So we took like 4.2 grams, and he'd only had one trip. And I mean, fair play, be confident, but I know that trap. You know when you have real confidence, but the first confidence is an illusion, because like I say, the first trips are really comfortable, and then the other trips like trick you, and they eventually you'll get trapped in the spiral realms. And the infinite time loop, etc. And he took him, and I told everyone I knew this was going to happen, and he did. He started like going, oh, these ones aren't like the other ones, and I was like, oh, here we go. And he started just venting like to the whole group as everyone was coming up on these dose, like 4 of us. And we were, I'm not hating on him, everyone was there for him, and he was actually, he held his composure for the most part, but he had a full breakdown. If you've seen the video, if you search Leo Gura Awakening on YouTube, etc., there's videos of him having a meltdown on the floor. I've got one of them reports that I never released because it was just too much. It was just too much. You just completely break down. and that happened to my mate, and I told him that's what's happening, and he was like, oh yeah, and I said, yeah, that's happened to me. And that's what I was saying, that is basically spiritual psychedelic awakening. I think that's how I started the video. It's well, no, I don't know, but something, yeah, it's mad. Reality just comes forth, the background comes forth, you see everything you wasn't seeing. It's you just have like a fucking energy fucking siren just go up your fucking body sometimes. It's infinite. The experiences are just different every time. So just keep your composure. Don't try and control it too much. It's very out there. Like, your whole idea of self can dissolve. Like, I'm not joking. It will not be boring if you take a big dose. And sometimes I've took them, like, they actually fucked up my mind before. When I was saying earlier in this video that when I was watching my old content just now, oh my god, I knew that was because of the mushrooms. I said in one of these, I found an unreleased video, it's like 10 minutes long, where I was just talking about like self-sabotage and depression. I was so fucked up, and I said in that video I had a trip, and I remember it because of the video as well. Sometimes if you do them in silent darkness, I was doing them a lot, like every week in silent darkness, every 2 weeks in silent darkness for years. Like, I know I haven't gone a month without taking like quite a dose of mushrooms for fucking like 2 years. And that's also the same period that my life is, like, in a way lost, like, it's been less stable, but I don't know, it's kind of tricky. Mushrooms do, like Leo Gura said, I quote Leo Gura, definitely, it's on my Instagram, I reposted it. He said, if you abuse psychedelics, your life will turn upside down. And it's kind of bizarre, but it's not to say that they are inherently like negative. It's just weird how they do that, because you still reap all of the benefits and you still do them for the same reasons, but it's like your perception changes and things change around you because of that. Like, your conscious, like, the brain activity is increased after a mushroom trip, like physically, I believe, for like 3 weeks. And even my dad said to me, he said, like, after I take shrooms or something, he says, like, I'm different for like a week. So yeah, I don't know, it's tricky stuff. Be careful, definitely. Be careful, even if you want to rush into it because it looks cool or whatever. Like, it will fuck you up. And you know how there's warnings where people say be careful, like, don't play with it like a toy, and then I know that you're listening to that going, yeah, whatever, like, and don't get me wrong, do what you want. I think it pays dividends eventually, maybe, because I just trust the process in general. But do not think that it won't fuck you up if you take loads. And by fuck you up, I mean, like, you'll be alright physically. They can't hurt you. Like, I just mean, it won't necessarily fuck you up. It will enlighten you, but it will shake the foundation of who you thought you was. But they do enlighten you for the most part. Terence McKenna said mushrooms are his thing. They straightened him out. I couldn't agree more. Really, they are. It's a long process. But yeah, I'm gonna run out of storage probably. I'm surprised it's still going. But yeah, that was quite a bit about psychedelics. I ain't been very active recently on my socials. I'll get there. I just fucking started a new job. Pretty busy, to be honest. But we'll see, because I can tell that my form of what I want to talk about, etc., is evolving, and I think things will look different in the future. I've said this for a long time, but I don't feel like I don't know what I want to take action on exactly too early. Like, things are becoming apparent, and I've just realised I'm still so young. Like, I've learned so much since I started my channel, so there's a lot I'm thinking about, and I think with time, I trust that I've got time, and we'll see where we go eventually. But yeah, I'd really like to pursue a bit more than these on a whim videos, but it's all all I really feel is necessary in a way. I just speak my mind. Sometimes I'm shit at speaking my mind, but it's because I don't prepare. But this one was quite good, I feel. And I don't mind just doing these on a whim videos. I think they're pretty good. I think maybe there's a good quality to them. I feel like everything that I've done so far with anything under my name is like, I know that it's my earliest stuff, so I have a bit of leeway. Not necessarily, but that's kind of why I dislike, because I know eventually I'll bury it, and it will be very old, and that oldness kind of gives it room. Like, where's the new stuff? So those who are the true fans will know the old stuff, but the old stuff is shit anyway. So the quality of the video, as the quality and the production and everything of my name, my videos, my music increases, so will the personality behind it and the ego development, etc. of the individual who's me making the stuff. So my earlier videos are shit quality, and that is because I was a shit quality person, and they're still shit quality because I'm still hella shit quality. But watch me get hella good quality. I've been saying I'm going to do this since the beginning, and I know I will, because I've seen that there's like a plan when I was on Heaven on Earth on mushrooms. So it's just a test of faith. I started this channel, like the psychedelics enlightened me, and then I just picked up my camera and I just start ranting about awakening and everything that I've been learning and awakening to. And then it's just the biggest mind fuck ever, because there's a whole community that knows what you're talking about as well. When you'll take a plant and then it will tell you stuff, and everyone's like, welcome to the other side. But then you can't, it's so like strange loopy, bro. Literally, you don't get how big it, and like it's like a dream, man. Spectrum has a lyric, he goes, psychedelics took my life and they replaced it with a myth. How am I supposed to save a world that I don't even think exists? Picture this. I've seen things that I can't explain. I've done things I won't do again. I've seen the universe crumble. I've seen the universe crumble.